everyone. Welcome to Unlocking API Security. My name is Asma Zubair and I lead Web Application and API Security at Qualys. In this session, we will talk about how pervasive APIs are and why it is a difficult problem to solve in terms of API security. Then we will compare different techniques that are used to test APIs. We will also briefly talk about complexities of modern application ecosystem. After that, I'll introduce you to Total AppSec, which is our product to test web applications and APIs. We will conclude the session with a brief demo of the product. So, APIs basically power majority of web applications, whether they are running on your desktop or on your mobile app, on your game console, on your TV, in wearable devices. Basically, APIs are used everywhere. So they present a very large and very attractive attack surface. Now let's talk about what makes API security a challenging problem. Basically, API security is very different from web application security. First of all, APIs need context. There is a sequence that needs to be followed. You can't delete an object that you haven't created. And then also the context of the user. Does user have permission to perform that operation? Similarly, authentication and authorization is also very different. On web applications, there are sessions and cookies. On API side, there are tokens. On top of that, APIs need different type of technologies like REST support, gRPC support, GraphQL support in order to be able to test them. On the other hand, traditional tools that work for web application security typically don't support all these type of capabilities in order to be able to test APIs properly. Now, looking at the problem from a slightly different angle, basically APIs present a larger attack surface. A web application or a mobile application or applications in general use a lot of APIs. So APIs present a much bigger attack surface. Then on the other side, also like APIs don't benefit from a lot of different types of protections that are there in a browser because users call APIs directly. And APIs also provide direct access to backend, to data. And also APIs are relatively new phenomena in the sense that they have in the last 10 years, they have exploded and adoption has increased very, very significantly. But the security policies in the organizations are still evolving. It's hard to get a complete inventory of APIs. Even API documentation specs are very often not there. All these things put together make APIs a very, very attractive target. They are designed to be accessible, they are designed to be integratable, and they present a very large attack surface. For all these reasons, APIs make a very attractive attack surface. Now let's look at different techniques that are used for testing APIs. There is static analysis, and it's good for code level analysis like finding hard-coded secrets, improper input validation, and things like that. But SAST does not execute the APIs. So it's not ideal for detecting vulnerabilities that require runtime confirmation. For example, authentication and authorization related vulnerabilities. And there are other vulnerabilities like denial of service or there are many examples where SAST does not work very, very well, is not ideally suited. Then there is DAST. DAST detects vulnerabilities by analyzing request and response. So it's good for detecting vulnerabilities, for confirming vulnerabilities at runtime. So it works well for authorization and authentication related checks and a lot of standard vulnerabilities like injection attacks and so on. The challenge is there are still some type of vulnerabilities like hard-coded secrets or sensitive data written in log files that you cannot detect with DAST. Then comes IAST. IAST is relatively new, and basically there is an agent. You deploy the agent where your application or API is running, and you exercise the tests, and application gets tested during the QA cycle of the product, during the QA cycle of your web application and API or APIs. The challenge with IAST is it can bring down the application if the agent is not very compatible with the language or framework you are using. So when using IAST, you have to make sure that the agent you are using works with the technology of your application. And a lot of times, like, your development team will just pick a language or framework that they want to use. They won't think about whether your IAST tool supports it or not. So those type of challenges arise. Now, also, none of these things address the discovery issue or inventory issue, being able to discover all your web applications or APIs. And you can't secure what you don't know. Then other thing is, most of the tools out there don't do a very good job of prioritizing risk, especially by taking threat landscape into account or the vulnerabilities that are being actively exploited. That factor doesn't very well surface in the general DAST and SAST and IAST tools. You can also look at security testing from active and passive perspective. Active testing involves like actively sending requests to your applications and analyzing the response. In this approach, the application is like more extensively tested because you are doing it intentionally. And it's a more proactive approach to testing, and you usually need a controlled testing environment to perform this type of testing. The second type of testing is passive testing. In this scenario, you basically observe as an example, you analyze traffic, you observe the request that is being made, and you analyze the response, and on that basis, you report vulnerabilities. This is a more reactive approach. It's likely in these situations your vulnerabilities may be missed because it depends on at that time or at any given time what calls are being made to the application or for that matter APIs. Now let's look at modern application ecosystem. Especially a lot of applications now are microservices based, which may be thousands of APIs may be in use, and not having a clear visibility into your APIs, into your applications, creates blind spots for potential breaches. So that's one big problem. The second problem is siloed approach to application security, using one tool for web applications, another tool for APIs. It prevents you from getting full visibility into your security posture. And that makes it hard to proactively monitor your application security posture, remediate the right type of vulnerabilities, and manage your risk. Then third comes aligning. You need to align the vulnerability management program with business priorities. And if your tool does not give you the risk, keeping in mind the business criticality of your assets, it gets hard to justify all the good effort you are putting in to your application security program. So basically, what do you need? You need a good way to manage or to create inventory of your assets, inventory of your APIs. Then you need holistic risk assessment to be able to assess the risk associated with your web applications and APIs. And then comes the remediation response. Just assessing risk is not enough. You need proper remediation response to reduce your risk and bring it to acceptable levels. That is why I would like to introduce you to Qualys Total AppSec. Qualys Total AppSec brings together web application security, API security, and web malware detection. When we say application security or API security, it also includes discovery and inventory capabilities. It includes ability to test applications and APIs for security vulnerabilities. It includes PII and sensitive data leakage detection, and also be able to assess the risk using true risk score, which is calculated from asset criticality and basically exploitations in the wild. Taking all those factors into account, be able to prioritize the risk associated with a web application or API. That is extremely valuable, especially if you don't have enough resources to remediate everything that you find. And not only that, the third very important piece of Total AppSec is web malware detection that detects presence of malware in your web application. And not only that, you can monitor your web applications for presence of malware using our web malware detection module. So to summarize, basically Total AppSec offers the ability to discover, monitor, and reduce your application security risk. Under asset discovery, you can discover your known and unknown APIs. You can discover you can inventory your known and unknown APIs. You can inventory your known and unknown web applications. It basically connects to your cloud environment. It connects to API gateways and discovers assets and discovers web applications and APIs that may be hosted on your assets in your internal network, as well as internet-facing assets that you may have. It can detect web applications and APIs from those assets as well. On risk assessment side, Total AppSec covers it detects all OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities for web applications, OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities for APIs. It detects web malware, and not only that, it would also test your APIs for compliance to open API specifications. On remediation side, it gives you true risk score for prioritization. Then integrates with tools like Burp and BugCrowd. It enables you to integrate security testing effort into your workflows for triaging, for retesting, and really makes it easy for you to bring down your application security risk to acceptable levels. Very quickly, I want to talk about discovery because it is a big topic. Total AppSec lets you discover your web applications and APIs from cloud environment. It can detect APIs or Swagger files while scanning web applications. It connects to API gateways and detects APIs from those sources. If you have Swagger file, Postman collection, or Burp proxy capture, you can bring it in and get all those things included in your API inventory. You can detect web applications and APIs on assets that are internet facing, and you can also discover web applications and APIs from your internal assets that are detected using VMDR scan. Now moving into risk assessment, very brief summary of our risk assessment capabilities in Total AppSec. About 2,400 QIDs are there to detect vulnerabilities in web applications. About 330 QIDs are there to detect API vulnerabilities, and 99% accuracy with our web malware detection capabilities. It is powered by deep learning, and it can detect zero-day malware for which no known signatures exist. With on remediation front, true risk score is provided, which takes business context of your application or API, and it also correlates vulnerabilities with the threat context. Threat information, threat intelligence is obtained using integrations with 25 plus threat feeds that we have. So it gives you true risk, takes into account all the relevant factors into account, such as asset criticality and threat context. For triaging issues, there are integrations available with ServiceNow and Jira. And to be able to retest things in your CI/CD pipeline, there are ready-made integrations available for Jenkins, Azure DevOps, GitHub, TeamCity. And in fact, with the APIs that you provide, you can basically integrate you can integrate total AppSec results in any tool of your choice. So to quickly summarize why you should care to use total AppSec, it basically gives you better risk management capability with a single pane of glass to manage your application security risk and API security risk, covering malware detection, PII leakage, and OWASP issues. Then we have added many new signatures, many new tests for more in-depth security testing. Not only that, Total AppSec also gives you ability to define custom signatures and be able to detect custom vulnerabilities. And if you are already using WAS product, it's very easy to upgrade. No extra work needed on your side, no data migration, no new configurations to do, and no need to onboard your users again. It's as simple as flipping a switch. You just let us know when you are ready to try it. We make it possible for WAS users to try it. And those who are not WAS users, a little later I'll share a link where you can sign up and try for Total AppSec. And then last but not the least, I want to talk about ROI. If you have to use two different tools for web application and API security, it's a lot of work. You have to set up and manage and monitor two different tools. The second thing is you get better license utilization for the investment you make in a tool, because one license of Total AppSec can be used to test a web application or an API endpoint. So that way you have flexibility to use it for either web application or API. This should help you achieve better license utilization. And last but not the least, with higher volume, when you combine web applications and APIs, you end up with higher volume, and that allows you to get better discounts because of greater quantity. Now I am ready to give you a demo of Total AppSec. Basically, if you are worried about visibility into web application and API inventory, if you find it hard to keep your inventory up to date, if you want to holistically test your web applications and APIs and find it hard to prioritize issues that you get after security testing, and you want to know how you can integrate security testing seamlessly in your triaging and retesting workflows, then please stay tuned for the demo. So this is the discovery screen that you get in Total AppSec. Here you can see different sources that you can utilize or leverage to create web application and API inventory. You can use your VMDR scan information to discover web applications and APIs. You can use CSAM scans to discover your external. Basically, you can use EASM output to discover web applications and APIs. Similarly, you can connect to your cloud environment or connect to API gateways to detect APIs, to discover and inventory APIs. So in this section, I will quickly show you how you can connect to a cloud environment and discover APIs. So here you just provide some basic information to perform scans on your cloud environment. And once you have provided all that information, it would be able to give you inventory of web applications and APIs. So as an example here, it shows 140 web applications, about 300 APIs. You can click on it. and all the relevant information about APIs is presented. A couple of things are noteworthy about this output. One is it's one list one list of all the APIs that have been acquired from different sources. So very easy visibility into all different sources you may have for APIs, including your cloud environment, your API gateway, even APIs discovered from during web application scanning, right? That's one. Second thing to highlight that I want to highlight is automated update of inventory. Whatever frequency you have defined in your connector, at that frequency it would go and collect information from the source. So there is no need for any manual effort or maintaining information in Excel like many people end up doing who are not aware that you can do it with total AppSec. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to show you is how you can onboard discovered APIs. So now I want to show you how you can onboard discovered APIs in total AppSec. You just select the APIs that you want to test, and then you specify the basic information needed to test the APIs. And after that, it will start scanning and you will be able to see vulnerabilities. So once you have started scanning, you will see the vulnerability information collected from your web applications and from your APIs. Number of vulnerabilities detected in web applications, number of vulnerabilities detected in APIs, how many of those are CISA known exploitable vulnerabilities, your overall true risk score for all your assets or specifically for web applications and for APIs. You can even see vulnerability counts in different OWASP top 10 categories, OWASP top 10 for web applications, for APIs. If you happen to have any application infected with malware, you can see that information as well here. And the dashboard is highly customizable. You can slice and dice it for any type of information you like. You can see number of URLs exposing PII, number of URLs collecting PII, and so on. Now I want to quickly show you how total AppSec tests for compliance to OpenAPI specifications. So basically, any non-conformance it detects in your APIs, it will report it. You'll see description, impact, solution, and the line number where the issue is. The API and vulnerability information is reported in API vulnerability report. You see count of vulnerabilities and different vulnerabilities in different categories, how many are related to sensitive data exposure or general information gathered about your API service. There are charts that show you count by severity, count by status, how vulnerabilities are distributed by various OWASP top 10 categories, and you can drill down into different vulnerabilities. You can see compliance related issues. You can drill down here and you can see the details. With the issues, you see the description, impact. You can even see the detection detail, and it's really easy to understand. You see the request, you see the response, what the expected response is on this API, and what was the actual response obtained. Similarly, you can see other issues. For example, we can see this issue. You can click on the detail, click on the vulnerability and see the detection details here. It's telling you about predictable resource location, and it could successfully access that particular link, and what the OWASP category is for that issue that was detected in broken access control and broken object level authorization, mapping to different OWASP lists. It gives you enough information for developers to give to developers to be able to remediate vulnerability. There is another interesting thing that I want to show you, basically integration with threat intelligence feeds. So certain vulnerabilities are exploited in the wild, and we integrate with threat intelligence feeds to surface that information and take that into account when we calculate Qualys detection score. So here you see this particular vulnerability is weaponized. It has many different malwares associated with it that are exploiting this vulnerability. You can see this is in CISA known exploitable vulnerability list, and how it is trending in the wild means people are talking about it in dark web and so on. So it's really useful for, like, if you happen to have a trending vulnerability, you can get all that information and it is taken into account in QTS score. Next, I quickly want to talk about the malware detection. So our malware detection is powered by Blue Hexagon, which utilizes deep learning to be able to detect malware. And it can detect things like MageGuard, because we have set this application up. We have set this application in our lab and we are scanning it, and this application is infected with MageGuard. So our malware detection module can quickly discover that this application is downloading a script from a questionable domain, and it is exhibiting the patterns that are associated with MageGuard. So really valuable to basically scan your applications in production for presence of malware and be able to monitor it, just in case anything gets infected. You will find it out very easily. The next thing is knowledge base. Here we show all the vulnerabilities that we test for in web application, in APIs, and you can very easily basically perform searches using this drop-down interface, and you can slice and dice information any way you like. The next come integration under remediation response. Once you have done assessment, you have list of vulnerabilities for applications and APIs, you want to be able to easily give it to developers for them to, you want to triage it, give it to developers to remediate them, and then be able to test them in your pipeline, right? So for that, I will quickly show you the ServiceNow integration. ServiceNow integration is available for here. You can search for Qualys and get the list of all integrations. This is the one that you want to use for web application security. And once you have given credentials to connect your ServiceNow to Qualys platform, after that you can configure it. You specify what type of vulnerabilities you want to push from Qualys platform into ServiceNow. You can select the severity, type of vulnerabilities, and so on. And once that configuration is in place, you will start getting all the vulnerabilities that meet your filter criteria into ServiceNow. So from here, your teams can easily just work on a vulnerability just like they work on any other ticket. And of course, full information is provided with the vulnerability, the name of the application where the issue is, the request, the response, the URL where the issue is, and any notes you might have made, they also appear here. Now, the question is how you want to integrate security testing in CI/CD pipeline. Typically, people want to, after the build is made and it is deployed, you want to be able to kick off a security scan. And you may have certain criteria on which you want to pass the build or fail the build, right? So that is what you can do. There is an available plugin on Jenkins Marketplace that you can use. Once you have deployed the plugin, you need to provide some basic configurations. Basics are simple, are pretty straightforward, and it depends on what type of pipeline you have. I am going to demonstrate it using a simple freestyle pipeline here. You basically again need to provide credential information to the platform, and after that you provide configurations that you want to use to test your application. You select the application that you are going to test, then you provide what type of scan you are going to perform. Is it vulnerability scan or discovery scan? So I have picked vulnerability scan because I want to know about the vulnerabilities in this application. If application requires authenticated scanning, you provide the authentication records. Depending on the type of detection scope, you can pick an option profile. It will appear here, and for example, here is a list of option profiles that are available, and I have picked initial VAS options. After that, you can provide your pass-fail criteria for the build. Once you have configured it and you have kicked off the scan, you will start seeing output of the scan in a form like this. And there is even a dashboard in Jenkins that you can use. It will show you number of links scanned, vulnerabilities detected, and how they matched with the criteria you had specified. So really easy. Once you have once your developers have remediated a vulnerability, you can perform security testing in CI/CD pipeline, and this can be a continuous cycle of testing, making changes in the code, adding new capabilities, and testing it on an ongoing basis. So I hope you liked this demo. For any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you liked what you saw, you can also get your free web application security report using this QR code. You scan and then sign up for a free trial, and trial will allow you to detect your on your application. You can detect vulnerabilities, sensitive data exposure, detect and monitor for malware, prioritize and remediate easily. It doesn't require any subscription. You just sign up for the free trial, and I hope you find it useful. If you have any feedback, do not hesitate to reach out to Qualys. Thank you.